Around 1000 BC, at the eastern edge of the Mediterranean, a script was born in the coastal cities of Phoenicia, and it began to flow eastward. It crossed the desert to Syria, onto Samarkand, then Dunhuang, and in the end, Beijing. But over the 5,000 kilometers it traveled, the peoples who made and carried it all vanished from history. Spring 1907. At the western edge of China, the Mogao caves of Dunhuang. A Hungarian-born British explorer arrives. His name, Aurel Stein. The Mogao caves were first carved in the 4th century. For 1,000 years, monks dug grottos and painted murals. At their peak, they numbered more than 1,000. In 1900, a Taoist priest named Wang Yuan Lu was cleaning the caves. By chance, a stretch of wall looked hollow, and when he tapped it, it echoed empty. He broke through the wall, and behind it lay another small chamber. Inside, tens of thousands of scrolls had been sealed away. That chamber was Cave 17, known to scholars as the Library Cave. It is believed to have been sealed in the early 11th century. For nearly 1,000 years, it had remained closed. At first, Wang had no idea of their value, and the officials he showed them to took no interest. But slowly, word began to spread. In 1907, Stein meets Wang, and after days of persuasion, he is led inside. The sight before him, he would never forget. Over 5 days, Stein chose some 7,000 scrolls to carry back to Britain. And mixed among them was a script no one had ever seen. The next year, the French scholar Paul Pelliot arrived, fluent in classical Chinese. He picked out the scrolls of highest value. Among them was a bundle of letters, sent from Dunhuang, addressed to Samarkand, a distance of 4,000 kilometers. And the script, no one knew whose it was. It would take 30 years to identify. In 1930s Germany, a young scholar set out to decipher the letters Walter Henning. Henning analyzed the patterns with only 2 clues. The shapes resembled Aramaic, and the writing ran vertically. He found the script was a descendant of Aramaic. Its language belonged to the Iranian family. The people who wrote it were the Sogdians. In 1948, Henning published his first paper on the Dunhuang letters. It opened an entirely new field of scholarship. But there was something more remarkable still. The Sogdians were the true protagonists of the Silk Road. The Sogdians were an Iranian people whose heartland was Samarkand and Bukhara. They were neither farmers nor soldiers, but merchants. Their reach defied imagination. To the west, Byzantium. To the east, Chang'an, capital of Tang, China. To the north, the Mongolian steppe. To the south, India. They connected 4 civilizations at once. Their script became the lingua franca of the Silk Road. Trade, diplomacy, scripture, all of it written in Sogdian. But the Sogdian merchants moved more than goods. They moved religions, carrying faith between east and west. The Sogdians practiced at least 3 religions. The majority were Zoroastrians. Many were Manichaeans. And there were also Nestorian Christians among them, all within a single people. And so Cave 17 held Manichaean scriptures and Nestorian Bibles, all written in Sogdian. 3 religions in a single script. In Chang'an, the Tang capital, there was a Sogdian quarter whose people were called the Hu. Chinese words beginning with Hu trace back to them. The Tang poet Bai Ju Yi sang of the Hu whirling dance, the spinning dance of the Hu. Its creators were the Sogdians. But the Sogdian script was not there from the start. It descended from an older one. Let us trace that lineage. It begins with Phoenician, 1000 BC. In the Syrian desert, it became Aramaic. In Samarkand, it became Sogdian. And from there to Uyghur, to Mongolian, to Manchu. The Phoenician alphabet had 22 consonants and no vowels. Yet within it lay the seed of every heir. Aramaic took all 22 Phoenician letters but made one decisive change. It turned cursive and the shapes softened. Phoenician ran right to left, and so did Aramaic and early Sogdian. But at some point, the direction changed. In late Sogdian, the script began to be written not horizontally, but vertically, top to bottom. Chinese influence is the likely cause. And this vertical writing would pass unchanged into Uyghur, Mongolian, and Manchu. So how far did the Sogdian script actually travel? Let us follow it across the Silk Road, beginning in Samarkand. Samarkand, the heart of Sogdiana. A Tang envoy wrote that the whole city was a garden and its people dressed in silk. Bukhara, 250 kilometers east, a city of scholars and theologians. If Samarkand was commerce, Bukhara was thought. Kashgar, where the true east begins, where desert meets the Tian Shan. A Sogdian trading post stood there. Turfan, at the eastern edge of the Taklamakan, with Sogdian temples and a village. A little Persia in the desert. Dunhuang, the crossroads of east and west, where a bundle of letters was sealed away. The very place of the discovery we saw at the start. And the final stop, Chang'an, a Tang capital of 1 million people. Within it stood a Sogdian quarter, temples, and stelae that survive today. From Samarkand, east through Bukhara to Kashgar, across the Tian Shan to Turfan, then on to Dunhuang, and finally to Chang'an, the Tang capital. 5,000 kilometers in a straight line. The journey usually took a year, deserts, mountains, bandits, a road that demanded a lifetime to cross. Let us return to the Dunhuang letters, 5 in all, found in Cave 17. They captured the daily life of an age. Letter number 1. The sender, a woman named Mihan. The recipient, her mother in Samarkand. An unmarried woman's letter home. Letter 2, from Miwanak, a Sogdian merchant in Dunhuang, to his master in Samarkand. He asks after the family he left 8 years before. The letter contained these lines: Luoyang exists no more. The emperor has fled. The Xiongnu have burned the city. This was the oldest surviving outside account of the disaster of Yongjia of 311 AD. A merchant's private letter, yet it shook the scholarly world. What the Chinese histories failed to record, one man's hand preserved. Letter 3 is a business report from the Dunhuang branch manager to the head accountant. It records what was traded and at what price. Letter 4 is a demand for repayment, one merchant asking another for money he was promised. The credit of the Silk Road, alive on the page. And letter number 5 concerned family news. Who had married, who had had a child, who had died. The life of a family 1,700 years ago, recorded in full. Not one of the 5 ever reached Samarkand. Someone in Dunhuang set them aside, and there they stayed, sealed for 1,000 years. Scholars now call them the Sogdian Ancient Letters, written in the early 4th century, found in 1907. After vanishing, they took 16 centuries to resurface. Today, 4 of the 5 rest in the British Library and 1 in Paris. Both were taken by scholars who passed through Dunhuang in the early 1900s. So how did the Sogdian script survive? A script does not die with its people when it is passed on to another. The Sogdian script has 4 descendants: Old Uyghur, Mongolian, Manchu, and the Toto-Bichik. All 4 descend from Sogdian. The Old Uyghur script was created in the 8th century when the Uyghur Khaganate adopted the Sogdian writing. It began the Eastern alphabet line. In 1204, Genghis Khan conquered the Nayman, and among them was a Uyghur scholar named Tatatanga. Genghis made him tutor to his sons. Tatatanga devised a way to write Mongolian in the Uyghur script, and it became the Mongolian script. An empire's writing began with one captive. In the late 16th century, Nurhaci united the Manchu and had scholars adapt Mongolian to his tongue. That became the Manchu script. And so Manchu became the official script of the imperial court, even after the Qing ruled all of China. The seals, the edicts, all in Manchu. The official scripts of the Mongol Empire and the Qing were both vast and mighty. Yet at root, they were the writing of Sogdian merchants. But here a heavy truth remains. The Sogdian script survived, but the Sogdian people did not. In 712, the armies of the Umayyad Caliphate seized Samarkand. 4 centuries of Sogdian prosperity collapsed within a single generation. Zoroastrianism, the Sogdian faith, was outlawed and the people converted to Islam. When faith changes, language follows. They turned to Persian. Even so, some Sogdian culture lingered through the 8th century. The final blow came in 1220 when Genghis Khan attacked Samarkand. Samarkand and Bukhara burned, and most of their people were massacred. The survivors were absorbed into other peoples, and a nation vanished. But it did not vanish entirely. In a narrow mountain valley in Tajikistan, the village of Yaghnab, roughly 8,000 people lived there. Their language is the last descendant of Sogdian. They herded sheep and goats in the mountains. In the 1970s, the Soviets forced them to the lowlands, but after 1991, some returned to the valley. The Aghnobi speakers shrink each year as the young turn to Tajik and Russian. The language is slowly dying. But there is one hopeful sign. In the early 2000s, a village teacher began teaching the children Aghnobi from a textbook he wrote by hand. Then in 2015, German and Russian linguists began a joint survey recording every word and its grammar. A trace before the language is gone. On the Sogdian page at Scripta, you can see all 5 Dunhuang letters. Henning's decipherment notes are there too. The 6-step lineage and its 4 descendants explore them all on the same page. It is an interactive family tree. I encourage you to try it yourself. First, Sogdian Traders by the French Orientalist Etienne de la Vassière. It is the fullest account of the Sogdian network ever written. Second, The Aramaic Language by the German scholar Klaus Bayer. It traces how Aramaic, the mother of Sogdian, flowed east. Third, the International Dunhuang Project, run jointly by the British Library in Paris. Every document from the Mongol caves, free to view. Let me sum up. A script born in Phoenicia crossed the desert to become Aramaic, and in Samarkand became Sogdian. It flowed on to Uyghur, Mongolian, Manchu, and 3 peoples vanished. But the script survived in the seals of the Qing, in the seal of Genghis Khan, in a merchant's letter. It outlived its peoples. Miwanak and Mihon, 2 names the letters left us, letters that never reached Samarkand. 1,000 years on, we received them in their place. What does it mean for a people to vanish? When their script lives on in another, can we truly say they are gone? To look into a single script is to look into the last footprint a people leaves on the world. If this helped you, please subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Tell me in the comments which script left the deepest impression. See you next time.